A couple of years ago, some girl got totally gutted. Some people are just evil.
Are you ready to enter the depths of hell?
It's gonna be fun, right?
Why are we signing a waiver?
Well, because the liability is, hey, bitch. A couple of years ago, some girl got totally gutted.
This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com, and what I'm reviewing today is Hellfest, quite possibly the best horror movie made this year. Who am I kidding? This movie is not very good. And I just caught Hellfest a few hours ago, and this is not a very good movie. In fact, what it reminded me of was a movie of the 1980s, like Friday the 13th, Terror Train, things of that nature, except not very good. And the reason this movie is not very good is because there are no real characters in it. They're just archetypes of characters. So you have the sassy black friend, you have her boyfriend, who's pretty amusing as well. So you just have outlines of characters, you don't have actual characters. And that's a problem with a movie like this. I mentioned Friday the 13th earlier, which for some reason I cannot say. But in any case, if you've seen the original Friday the 13th, that was actually a pretty good movie. Sure, it was gory as hell, but at the same time, there was a story and actual characters, particularly Jason's mom. That's a actually really good movie. I think it's underrated, in fact. So, and I also mentioned Terror Train, which I enjoyed. I believe Jamie Lee Curtis starred in that, and I haven't seen it in a while. But it's actually a pretty good movie. And there is a story to it, and there are characters that are, at the very least, interesting. Though with Hellfest, there are no interesting characters. As I implied, it's a throwback to 1980s horror movies and that type of thing, but it's just not very good. It takes all the worst things of 1980s horror movies, such as weak characterization, a not very interesting plot, and just really awkward dialogue, and just doubles down on it. And so as an homage, it's not that great. As a movie, it's not that great. It's not terrible by any stretch. And there are some gory kills, if that's your thing, in it. But there's so much space between them that it's like they don't really have an impact. And there are other scares besides the kills, but they're jump scares, which is like if there were a hierarchy of scares, the jump scare would be down here. It would be like the cheapest of scares. And there are quite a few of those. And also, what I find most irritating is that the music is so bombastic in this movie. I don't recall if there's even a quiet moment in the movie. In fact, I'm sure there were, but I don't notice them because the movie was just so loud and obnoxiously so. And that type of thing tends to bother me because what you have is the movie telling you how to feel, as opposed to just having characters interact, and through the interactions, you feel things. You know, like a well-written movie does. So in the case of this movie, things like the music or a jump scare would tell you how you should be feeling. And it's manipulative, and I don't like it, and better movies don't need to do it. So in that perspective, I don't think Hellfest was a particularly good movie. Though its greatest sin is the way it wastes Tony Todd. Tony Todd, Candyman, the guy whose voice literally sends chills down your spine He's wasted here. For most of this movie, Tony Todd's voice is heard over loudspeakers at the Hellfest event. And once again, this is Tony Todd. The guy is just creepy by... That's not fair, I've never met him. But in movies, he's creepy by nature, and they take no advantage of that. And it's just really, really not a great decision. It's Tony Todd. Let this man be scary. It's what he does really well and seemingly effortlessly. Instead, he comes off kind of schlocky when he does appear as a showman, carnival barker type person. So, by way of illustration, if someone like Alfred Hitchcock were alive, you put him in a real schlocky, bad movie. It's Alfred Hitchcock. The man directed Psycho. The man directed The Birds. And he was very well parodied by Mel Brooks, by the way, in High Anxiety. But in any case, he directed some great movies. You used that to your benefit. This movie wastes Tony Todd, and that's a pity. And the ending of this movie is not the Predator dumb, but it's pretty silly because it makes some assumptions on the nature of a killer, or serial killer, should I say, that is, especially in today's day, it's just nonsense. Mild spoilers. The idea that a serial killer wouldn't have a family, why is that a shocker? The idea that a serial killer can love another person and yet kill people? Big whoop. That is just not a big deal today. In fact, I personally think it's a given that they do care about someone, just not the people they're killing, which kind of makes sense. So, Hellfest is a movie I would not pay to see. I did. I didn't know. Forgive me, please. But you probably haven't yet. And if you haven't, don't. It's not terrible by any stretch, but if your thing is gore, the gore occurs so intermittently that it's not really worth your time. If your thing is scary movies, it's not particularly scary. It has moments in which there's tension, but those are few and far between. Most of the scares come from jump scares, which again are the lowest form of scare. It's just like, it's not even a scare, more so than a surprise. Something startles you. That's not necessarily scary. Scary is building tension. Scary is atmosphere, like, I don't know, Hereditary. Good movie, kind of scary. Hellfest, not really. If you can wait for Netflix, or HBO, or Showtime, or Redbox, or something other than actually paying to see this movie, I suggest you do so, because it is just not worth $12. If you live in an area that has like dollar theaters, and God bless you if you do, I envy you. If you have that, go see Hellfest. Reason being, you're putting out relatively little in terms of paying for it, because it's not worth it really. And you might enjoy it a little more if you pay relatively little to see it. If you, as I did, pay $12, called a matinee, if you pay $12 to catch it, it's underwhelming. It's not that great a movie. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So this is one you just gotta pick up on cable if you can. Do not go see it, because the ending leaves it open for a sequel. And I'm just saying, if you go see it after watching this video, that's on you. They make a sequel to this movie as mediocre as the first movie, that's on you, because I warned you. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. Peace.